Ladies and gentlemen, today's story is about a legend. Not the kind that slays dragons, wins wars, or invents the next big app, but the kind that slays hearts and bedsheets. A true bedroom scholar. His name, McPhineas Lata. Yes, the man, the myth, the mattress whisperer. When he was alive, McPhineas Lata had one hobby, loving married women. And I don't mean sending them flowers or writing poetry. No, my friends. This man specialized in making women happy, in the kind of way that makes even the ancestors blush. An expert in the sacred science of satisfaction. But then one day, tragedy struck. McPhineas Lata died. How? On the job. Let that sink in. He literally died having sex with another man's wife. Talk about poetic justice or tragic climax, depending on who you ask. Now you'd expect a village to be heartbroken when someone dies. But in Nokanyana, the village where this scandal unfolded, grief took on interesting shapes. The women? Oh, the women were inconsolable. Their howls of sorrow echoed as far as the Ditlhako hills. There was fainting, there were dramatic wails. I wouldn't be surprised if someone tried to throw themselves into the grave. The men, the husbands, ecstatic. They were so happy. Some of them brought their own shovels to the cemetery. Yes, as if saying, you know what, Reverend, no need for a eulogy. Let's just get this over with. And when it came time to bury him, record time.
The men were so happy that some carried their own shovels to the cemetery, and when the time came to cover up the body, it was carried out in record time.
But as any wise man knows, burying a man doesn't mean burying his legacy, or, in McPhineas Lata's case, his memory, and certainly not his effect on the wives of Nokanyana. Because soon after his funeral, something unsettling happened. Every morning, the men began to notice a strange ritual. Their wives, clothed in flowing dresses and secret smiles, were sneaking off to the cemetery. And not just to visit. Oh no, they were humping McPhineas Lata's grave.
What?
You heard that right. No prayers, no flowers, just some spiritually motivated pelvic movements on 6 feet of dirt. So the men gathered, scandalized and confused. What had this man done? What spell had he cast? What techniques did he use that could cause such graveyard loyalty? Desperate for answers, they interrogated the only 2 people who might know, McPhineas's friends, Bongo and Cliff. The result? Nothing useful. The men walked away even more confused and, frankly, sexually insecure. So they did what men often do when cornered by a challenge they don't understand. They held a meeting. The agenda? Figure out how to please their wives, like McPhineas did. And from here, the story takes a hilariously awkward turn. Each man was tasked with conducting experiments on his wife, trial and error in the sacred art of seduction. Then they'd return to report their findings to the group, like horny little scientists. As we dive into this research, we learn some tragic truths. These men were clueless. They'd lost all sense of intimacy. They didn't even remember the basics. Some were so clumsy they infuriated their wives more than anything else. If McPhineas Lata was a master chef, these guys were burning cereal. But then came a breakthrough. A local hero emerged, RraTebogo. He discovered that rubbing his wife's shoulder for 3 minutes, followed by 4 strokes on the right side, very specific strokes, unlocked a kind of magic he hadn't seen in years.
He discovered that rubbing his wife's shoulder for 3 minutes, followed by 4 strokes on the right, worked on her.
RraTebogo, being a generous man, shared his wisdom. The other husbands followed suit, massaging, exploring, rediscovering the terrain of their marriages. And slowly, something wonderful happened. The women stopped visiting McPhineas Lata's grave. The village changed. The bedrooms warmed. A new energy settled over Nokanyana, one filled with sighs of joy, nighttime laughter, and for the first time in a long while, mutual satisfaction.
But wait! There's more! Hang on to your seat, baby! Cause this one's a screamer!
But then came a new theory. The women began to whisper. This can't be our husbands, they said. No way they changed this fast. No way they all learned the same tricks overnight. There was only one explanation. McPhineas Lata had returned, not as a ghost, but as a spirit, possessing the bodies of the men of Nokanyana. One woman cried,
"He's here with us. I knew he couldn't just leave like that. McPhineas Lata has taken up the bodies of our husbands. He has taken spiritual possession of the husbands of Nokanyana."
And from that point forward, both men and women in the village lived in anticipation, not of gossip or funerals or scandal, but of nightfall. Nightfall, where they would discover new techniques, new desires, and perhaps new versions of each other.
Take me to Pleasure Town.
Oh, we're going there.
The story is called In the Spirit of McPhineas Lata by Lauri Kubuitsile. And yes, it's as wild, hilarious, and layered as it sounds. Let's talk about why this story works so well. It's written in a folktale-like narrative, almost like something you'd hear from an elder with a cup of tea and a mischievous twinkle in their eye. There's a sense of exaggeration, of suspended belief, that allows the humor and satire to shine. At its heart, this story explores something very real, the slow sexual death of marriage. The way comfort turns into complacency, the way husbands stop doing what they used to do when they were courting. In a roundabout comical way, Kubuitsile is advising men to relearn intimacy, to be sexual explorers, not passive participants, and to realize that pleasing a partner is not a one-time trick, but a lifelong craft.
Sex positive.
Reading this story reminded me of Ian McEwan's On Chesil Beach. Surprising, I know, but hear me out. In both, we see the complicated place of sex in marriage. The difference? In On Chesil Beach, the failure to communicate destroys love. In McPhineas, that failure is resurrected through curiosity, humor, and late-night meetings full of untrained husbands. There's also something quietly feminist in how the story centers women's pleasure, not just as a goal, but as something worth fighting for. And when the women begin to speculate that McPhineas has possessed their husbands, it's not fear they feel, it's joy. That's a twist you rarely see. That said, I did feel that Kubuitsile could have pushed further into the darker consequences of feminine adultery and its place in patriarchal societies. There's a hint that she's testing the pulse of that idea, but the story remains more playful than provocative in that direction. Still, I appreciated it immensely. A few themes stand out: marital intimacy. The story challenges the idea that sex and marriage must dull with time. Gender roles and expectations. The women are vocal and unashamed in their desires, while the men are forced to confront their own incompetence. Community and learning. There's something wholesome and honestly hilarious about men learning how to love better through group meetings. And satire, beneath the comedy, is a sharp jab at societal hypocrisy around sex, especially in conservative communities. Kubuitsile's tone is polished and witty, almost Mia Couto-like in its refined playfulness. You need to suspend belief to enjoy it fully, but once you do, it's a ride worth taking. Lauri Kubuitsile is a full-time writer from Botswana with over 13 published works of fiction. She's also written television series for Botswana Television, and her short stories have been published worldwide. She's a multi-award-winning writer, including the Golden Baobab Prize, Junior category in 2008 and 9 and Senior in 2010, the BTA Anglo Platinum Short Story Contest, and the Orange Botswearer Prize from the Ministry of Youth, Sports and Culture in Botswana. She blogs at Thoughts from Botswana, and if this story is anything to go by, I'll definitely be checking out more of her work. So what did you think of McPhineas Lata? Was he a scoundrel, a legend, a necessary ghost? Let me know in the comments. And if you enjoyed this review, please like, share, and subscribe for more classic African fiction, short stories, and literary deep dives. Until next time, may your nights be full of discovery and your reading list full of surprises. Hey, thanks so much for hanging out with me today. If you're interested in diving deeper into this book, I've left some links down in the description. You can use it to grab yourself a copy and keep the adventure going. And if you're in the mood for more great reads, don't go just yet. Click on one of the videos popping up right now that I think you'll love. And don't forget to give this review a like, leave a comment, or even subscribe if you'd like to see more. Every bit of support helps us grow this little community of book lovers. See you in the next one.